Welcome back, everyone. We have a CR8 Les Paul of Andrew's that I have just installed a Faber replacement bridge. So I thought before I go any further, I'm going to explain what I did, how I did it, why I do it the way I do it. First thing I did was I used the original bridge to get that string spacing right on the money. And as you can see, I've got a piece of red masking tape across there. Next, I just put a little tick mark on the red masking tape so it could be clearly seen. Then I took the right gauge files, 46, 36, 26, 17, 13, and 10 thou, and just nicked those saddles. So I wanted to point that out first before I take this tape off so you kind of know what I did and how I did it. So the deal with this Faber bridge and tailpiece set is both the tailpiece and the bridge lock. An extra added touch is this little tool that comes with the kit that fills the void completely so that when you tighten these down, I don't know how many times I've seen these tailpiece posts butchered because somebody used a thin screwdriver. Even this one you would have to be careful. So I kind of tighten those up by filling the entire void. The other end of the tool is used for this, and again, you don't have to reef on it, but if it ever did loosen up, which is highly unlikely, he would have the tool to snug it back down. We are going to be doing a light fret dress on this, and I'm going to be doing the compensated nut. But before I took off the original nut, I want to make sure we get these two pieces lined up. So there is our Faber bridge install. Now we are going to heat up and remove that original nut and of course make a compensated nut. It's all about tuning. And that there are 3 sets of these ferrules that allow you to adjust that tailpiece to 3 different heights. I took the medium set. Just want to make sure those strings clear the back of the casting. Andrew did have a wraparound on that original bridge. Luckily the guitar is new enough that the strings didn't start digging into that original bridge. So all the original parts are in a Ziploc baggie. They'll be tucked in his case. And if at any time in the future he decides to put it back to original, no issue. So for both of you guys, Frank and Enzo, that just received your GPS units, I shipped out your fretting kits, and in those fretting kits you're going to see this fastener. This fastener set slides on top of the female rail, and it's basically a jack for underneath the pivoting neck assembly. It's not needed on the other side because you have the whole weight of the body and length of the neck holding it in place. But to completely immobilize this end of the pivoting neck assembly while I drive in those first 3 or 4 frets, I would routinely just use a piece of hockey puck. After some deliberation, I decided, you know something, we're going to give something to the guys in Australia or South Korea or Japan that maybe don't have access to hockey pucks. So I sort of get the guitar into place, and then I got a 1/2-inch wrench, and I just adjust that until I see the gap disappear on the other end. Doesn't take a lot of tension. So now that is completely immobilized. You don't really need it for fret dressing, but so like I said, for Frank, Enzo, and for Billy too, I know you haven't got one yet, Billy, but if you don't have access to hockey pucks, let me know and I'll ship one of these out. I know you're interested in getting a fretting kit as well, so I'll just stick that in the fretting kit. Okay, on with the job. So we are going to sort of remove that truss rod cover. So this is a little heat shield that I just lightly tape into place. This allows us to focus the heat directly on the nut without overheating the lacquer or the fingerboard. Okay, that was our 4 minutes on high. We got a brand new razor blade, first use, and we're gonna strike while the iron's hot. Just give that a try. So there is our original nut. We'll use that as a template to make our new bone replacement. Okay, the last move now is to go across all of the slots and bring it down until the open string and the fretted first fret note is in tune all the way across. So now you understand why we leave so much extra height and overhang on those nut blanks that I send out, because the cross-sectional profile needs to be big enough to do any guitar on the planet. From a thin Fender style nut to a slanted bottom vintage Martin nut. That's why I make that cross-sectional profile so big, so that it covers all bases. With this nut, the string spacing is right on the money. Now all of these slots are deep enough so that the open string and the fretted first fret note are both in tune all the way across. And you'll see that in a second when I do the final tuning demo. That brass shim stock that I send out with the compensated nut packages, I stick it to the tape first. I've doubled the tape over, slip it under the strings, and then I pull it through like so and tape it into place. This is to protect, in this case, a Brazilian rosewood fingerboard from getting damaged by the cutter when you're cutting your compensation values. Now the nut comes off for the last time, and essentially we're just making it look pretty. Back to the radius disc sander. Here we go, moment of truth, the 6th string. Some mutes in there because this is one of those uber lively guitars. There's our fundamental. So I'll pull my foam mute over so the foam is dampening the other 5 strings, so that we get a clear fundamental note when we go to check the calibration. There we go. Is very accurate, but it's also very susceptible to those sympathetic overtones, and that's why I go into trouble to mute. Okay, on the wrap up here, I just want to talk about some aspects of this guitar in particular. The CRH, C standing for chambered, so the body's actually quite light, surprising for a Les Paul. The other thing I wanted to bring up again is, for those of you that are filing the nut slots, you really need to cover the headstock with like a piece of bristleboard or something. I mean, I know I did not do that, but I have been through this a few times. But on this guitar, it is essentially pivotal because there is no fiber overlay. That's just black paint. So one file stroke, you'll cut right through that, right down to the wood. So again, just use some extra caution if you're working on one of these things. The other aspect of this guitar, it's not a huge neck, but it's quite rounded on the back. It feels great. I love it. And the fact that it's chambered, it definitely has a sound of its own. Difference. I remember when these guitars first came out, the first chambered guitar by Gibson that I saw was a double cut Les Paul. That was in my old shop. It must have been, I'd say 1996 or so, maybe 97. It had come in for a broken headstock, surprise, surprise. I got that fixed and blew it in, and I remember sitting down and playing that guitar, the first sort of chambered Les Paul, thinking like, wow, this is really quite unique. I mean, it's sort of not quite a 335 sound, and definitely different than a solid body guitar. For those of you watching my channel, you know how many Les Pauls I go through. This one really is special. So this is the progression I've looped. So I'm going to let that play.